Hey everyone, it's Anna from Virgo here, and what I'm about to tell you requires you to do absolutely nothing except listen. Subscribe now because this energy is powerful. There's magnetic principle operating in human connection, where your withdrawal of attention often creates more pull than your pursuit ever could. And right now, your absence from someone's awareness is creating exactly the kind of vacuum that draws them back toward you without you needing to do anything to make it happen. Not mystical magic where thinking about someone makes them appear, not manifestation technique that requires visualizing or affirming. Psychological reality where the person who stops chasing becomes infinitely more interesting than the person who's always available, where your silence creates curiosity that your constant contact never generated, where your lack of pursuit triggers their pursuit instinct that your pursuit was actually suppressing. This is about energetic dynamics that operate regardless of your belief in them, about human nature responding to absence and presence in ways that are remarkably consistent and remarkably exploitable when you understand them. And the instruction to not text, that's not arbitrary, that's strategic. Every time you reach out to someone who's pulled away or gone distant or ended things, you release the tension that would naturally draw them back. You give them the attention they're no longer earning, which teaches them they can have you without effort. You reset the clock on how long they've been without you, which prevents them from actually missing you enough to do something about the missing. Your silence is working even when it feels like it's doing nothing, especially when it feels like it's doing nothing. In the specific power of strategic withdrawal, you're creating conditions where they have to sit with your absence, have to notice the space where your attention used to be, have to wonder what you're doing and thinking and feeling since you're not telling them anymore. That wondering is what brings them back. That curiosity about whether they've lost you, that discomfort with not knowing if you're moving on, that anxiety that maybe you're not sitting around waiting anymore like you used to be. Let me illuminate what's actually happening when you stop reaching out and let them come to you. In the psychology of pursuit and withdrawal dynamics, there's fundamental truth about human desire that most people ignore to their own detriment. We want what moves away from us, we take for granted what moves toward us. When you're the one always initiating contact, always reaching out, always trying to maintain connection, you're teaching the other person that you're the pursuer and they're the pursued, which means they don't have to do anything to keep you because you're clearly not going anywhere. Your past behavior with this person might have established exactly this dynamic. You texted first consistently, you made plans, you kept conversation going, you did the emotional labor of maintaining connection. And what did that get you? Probably distance, probably breadcrumbing, probably intermittent reinforcement where they responded just enough to keep you hooked, but never enough to actually satisfy your need for real connection. That's what happens when pursuit is one sided. The person being pursued learns they can give minimum effort and still receive maximum attention. Notice what happens when you stop being the one who reaches out, when you create actual space instead of filling every silence with your anxiety driven contact attempts. Initially, it might feel like nothing is happening, like you're just being ignored harder than before, like your silence is going unnoticed. But that's surface appearance. Underneath, they're registering the change. They're noticing you're not in their messages anymore. They're experiencing the absence of your consistent attention, even if they're not consciously thinking about it yet. Some people start coming back within days of you going silent. The sudden absence of your attention creates immediate discomfort that they need to resolve by checking in, by reaching out, by seeing if you're still there or if you've actually moved on. These people were more attached than they showed. Your attention was more important to them than their behavior suggested, and losing it creates panic response that drives them back toward you quickly. You might be dealing with exactly this type of person, someone who took you for granted while you were available but who can't handle actually losing you, someone whose dismissive behavior was a defense mechanism against their own vulnerability rather than actual lack of care. Um, when you stop chasing, their fear of loss overrides their fear of closeness. When you create real distance, their attachment system activates in ways your pursuit was ironically preventing from activating. Others take longer, weeks or months rather than days. They're stubborn or they're genuinely less attached or they're testing to see if your silence is real or just manipulation tactic that will break if they wait long enough. These people are more defended, more resistant to vulnerability, more committed to the distance they created. But even they often come back eventually if the connection had genuine substance. Even they start to wonder if they made mistake. Even they begin to miss what they're not receiving from you anymore. This reflection invites you to consider: how long are you willing to maintain silence before you decide the connection isn't worth maintaining? Let me clarify what just listen to this video suggests about your role in this process. Just listen means your active part is minimal. You're not doing manifestation rituals. You're not sending telepathic messages. You're not trying to control the outcome through spiritual practices or psychological manipulation. You're simply maintaining your silence, you're going about your life, you're letting the natural dynamics of pursuit and withdrawal operate without interfering through premature contact. Your job is to not text, to not reach out, to not break the tension that's building. In the discipline this requires, you're fighting every urge to check in, every anxiety that tells you silence means loss, every fear that if you don't reach out, you'll be forgotten. You're trusting the process even when the process feels like nothing is happening, even when you desperately want reassurance that you haven't been abandoned, even when your attachment system is screaming at you to do something to restore connection. The listening is about receptivity, about being open to their return without forcing it, about allowing rather than pushing. It's essential you understand that this isn't about manipulation, this is about shifting dynamic that wasn't working. If you were getting what you needed through pursuit, you wouldn't need to try withdrawal. But pursuit wasn't working. Pursuit was probably making things worse. Pursuit was putting you in position of chasing someone who was running, which is exhausting and degrading and ultimately unsuccessful. Withdrawal isn't game, it's boundary. It's you stopping behavior that wasn't serving you and seeing what happens when you honor yourself instead of chasing them. Some people hear this advice and implement it as manipulation tactic. They go silent specifically to make the other person miss them. They calculate their absence as strategy to create desired response. They're not actually doing their own healing or moving on. They're just using silence as tool to get person back. This often backfires because the inauthenticity is palpable, because when the person does return, they encounter same energy that drove them away initially, because nothing has actually changed except temporary absence. You need to implement silence differently if you want it to work. You need to actually use the space to work on yourself, to heal your attachment wounds, to build life that fulfills you, whether this person returns or not, to develop into someone who's genuinely okay either way. That authentic detachment is what makes you magnetic. That real peace with either outcome is what shifts the energy from needy pursuit to attractive self possession. They feel the difference when they encounter you after you've done actual work versus when you've just been silently waiting for them to come back. Others use this time to genuinely move on. They stop texting because they're actually done. They go silent because they're protecting their peace, not because they're strategizing their ex's return. If this is you, if you've reached a point where you don't actually want them back anymore, then whether they return becomes irrelevant. Your silence was ending, not strategy. Your withdrawal was closure, not manipulation. That's valid outcome. That's healthy outcome potentially. That's you recognizing you deserve better than someone who required your absence to value your presence. This reflection invites you to consider, are you going silent to get them back, or are you going silent because you're actually done? Let me address what actually makes them come back versus what doesn't. They come back when they genuinely miss you, when enough time passes that the reasons they pulled away start feeling less important than the connection they're missing, when they've had space to process whatever caused the distance and they're ready to engage differently. They come back when your absence creates hole in their life that they can't fill with other things, when they try to replace you and realize you're not replaceable, when they understand through losing you that they actually wanted you in ways they weren't honoring when they had you. Your situation might result in exactly this kind of genuine return, where they reach out because they've done their own work, because they've realized what they lost, because they're ready to show up differently than they showed up before. This is the return worth receiving. This is the comeback that has potential to be different. This is the reconnection built on actual growth rather than just temporary loneliness or boredom that will fade when their circumstances improve. Watch for signs that their return is genuine versus signs that they're just breadcrumbing. Again, genuine return includes accountability for previous behavior, includes clear communication about what they want and what they're offering, includes consistency in their actions, not just intensity in their words. Breadcrumbing includes vague messages that keep you hoping without committing, includes disappearing again after getting your attention, includes taking but not giving, includes keeping you as option while they explore other options. But sometimes they don't come back. Sometimes your silence is just silence to them. Sometimes they're genuinely not that attached. Sometimes they're actually fine without you. Sometimes they've moved on more completely than you have. This possibility is why your silence needs to be about you healing and growing rather than about strategy to get them back. Because if the strategy fails, you need to have built something for yourself rather than having just waited in vain. You might be facing exactly this reality where your silence doesn't bring them back because they're not coming back, where the connection is actually over despite your hope that absence would make them realize what they're missing. If that's the case, your work is accepting that outcome, grieving what you hoped would happen that isn't happening, redirecting your energy toward moving forward rather than staying stuck waiting for someone who isn't returning. Still others come back, but not in ways that serve you. They return casually, expecting to pick up where things left off. They want access to you without offering commitment. They miss you enough to reach out, but not enough to actually be different. These returns are traps. These comebacks lead to repeated cycles. These reconnections damage you more than continued distance would damage you. This reflection invites you to consider, if they do come back, what would they need to offer for you to actually want to receive them? Let me speak to what you should be doing during the silence besides not texting. Focus on your own life with genuine attention, not performative self improvement designed to make them jealous, but actual investment in becoming person who's fulfilled, whether they're in your life or not. Do things that interest you, spend time with people who value you, pursue goals that matter to you, heal wounds that keep you stuck in anxious attachment patterns. This isn't distraction while you wait. This is building life that's worth living, independent of their participation in it. In the transformation that can occur during intentional silence, you often discover you're more okay than you thought you'd be. You realize you can be happy without them, even though you thought they were essential to your happiness. You find that your life expands when you're not contracting it around someone who wasn't showing up for you anyway. This discovery is what makes you genuinely magnetic. This realization that you don't need them, even though you might still want them, shifts entire energy dynamic. It's critical you don't spend the silence obsessing about them, checking their social media, analyzing their every post for hidden meanings, asking mutual friends about them, keeping tabs on their life while pretending you're not. That's not silence, that's just not texting while remaining completely entangled. Real silence includes mental and emotional distance, includes redirecting your attention away from them toward your own growth and healing, includes breaking the obsessive thinking patterns that keep you hooked even when you're not in contact. Some people use silence as opportunity to date other people, to explore other connections, to remember they have options beyond person who pulled away. This isn't about making anyone jealous. This is about not putting your life on hold, about recognizing that someone who's distant or gone doesn't deserve your loyalty or your waiting, about allowing yourself to be open to connections that might serve you better. Whew! If you meet someone wonderful while you're not texting your ex, that's not betrayal. That's life happening while you're being smart enough to not chase unavailable person. You might need exactly this reminder that you're allowed to live fully during the silence, allowed to explore other options, allowed to not be frozen in time waiting for someone to decide you're worth returning to. Your silence isn't promise to wait forever. It's choice to stop pursuing that you can maintain while still being open to better things. It's boundary that protects you rather than loyalty that constrains you. This reflection invites you to consider what would make this period of silence worthwhile even if they never come back. Don't send them a text message. Your silence is working better than your pursuit ever did. Just listen to this video. Understand the dynamics. Trust the process. Focus on yourself. And they will come back to you. Many times, absence creates the pull that presence couldn't create. Withdrawal triggers pursuit that availability prevented. Your silence becomes louder than your words ever were. And your work is maintaining the silence with integrity, not as manipulation but as boundary, not as strategy but as self-respect, not as waiting but as moving forward. Doing your own healing work so that if they return, you're in position to receive them from strength rather than from neediness. So that if they don't return, you've built something for yourself that makes their absence matter less than it would have if you'd spent all this time just waiting. May you honor the silence as sacred. May you use the space for your growth. May you trust that what's meant will find you. May you be genuinely okay either way. Your silence speaks volumes. Their return is their choice. Your healing is your responsibility. Build life that doesn't require their participation to be beautiful. Remember this: if they come back because you went silent, make sure they're coming back to someone worth coming back to someone who's grown in the silence, to someone who's clear about what they will and won't accept. Don't just be relieved they returned. Assess whether what they're offering now is actually better than what drove you to silence in the first place. Your silence had purpose. Maintain standards that honor that purpose. The silence continues. You grow within it. What returns must earn access. What doesn't return wasn't meant to stay.